Hi and welcome back to CRVC TV. I'm Greg, obviously at the Caravan Repair Centre. Unfortunately Renee's away today, she's not well, so it'll be just ourselves today. Today we'll be talking about caravan refrigeration, but firstly I'd like to recap on a question from last week where we covered the topics of caravan security and caravan covers. And we had a question come in quite late in regards to, should I fit a caravan cover? If water gets on top, will it cause mould to build up there? Now, that's a very good question. Generally, a good quality caravan cover will allow any moisture that does happen to get underneath it to be released back into the atmosphere, not creating any mould. So that's why, again, it really will pay you to invest in a great quality cover. You don't have things like mould and mildew building up underneath your cover, because they are certainly one of the things that will eat into your quality sealants and create leaks in the caravan. That's why we certainly don't suggest using poly tarps. They will sweat underneath the tarp, and there is a high likelihood of mould and mildew building up and therefore affecting the seals on the van. So I hope that gives you a little bit of coverage as to, you know, is it okay if there's a bit of rain that gets underneath my caravan cover? Certainly, as I said, good quality cover, no problem at all with that. So we're going to launch straight into now caravan refrigeration. Obviously there's two main types of refrigeration used in our modern RVs. That is the three-way, being gas, 240 and 12 volt, or compressor fridges, much like your domestic fridge at home. Obviously both have their positives and negatives. I would say it really depends on the type of operation you're doing with your van as to which style of fridge will suit you best. The new generation of compressor fridges are fantastic cooling units, and certainly, you know, if you've lived in Queensland or New South Wales in the last week or so where we've had 40+ degrees, the three-way fridges do struggle in those sort of high temperatures. North Queensland, Darwin, even the top end of WA, your three-ways can struggle in very extreme heat conditions, whereas your compressor fridges are certainly a lot better, much more efficient fridges. But of course, they have to have a power supply. So unless you have a good quality battery system and a reasonable size solar system, you'll need some sort of power to keep that running. So those that like to spend long-term, off-grid, free camping, it's a real option for your three-way. Obviously you can run that fridge on gas with very little power consumption for long periods of time. You know, most fridges will run off a 9 kilo bottle for about a month, so it gives you a long time away from any powered supply, but still being able to keep your food cool. Obviously your compressor fridges, as I said, you need a good quality solar system and a reasonable battery bank to keep those running. I hope that gives you a little bit of an idea, and we'll field some questions that you may have as to the operations of those particular units.
Yeah, I've just got a question here, Greg. If I have an air conditioner in my caravan, will my fridge run more efficiently?
The answer to that is generally yes. Obviously your fridge is insulated, but running your air conditioner, if you're at a powered site, cools the interior of the air of the unit that you're in, whether that be a motorhome or a caravan, and obviously the cooler the air around the fridge, the more efficient it's going to run. So, you know, you generally find always in winter your fridge runs much more efficiently than summer, and therefore in hot summer conditions, if you're struggling, certainly, and you can turn on an aircon, turn it on and chill the internals of the caravan right down. It'll certainly assist your fridge in its operation.
Alright, no worries. I've got another question here as well. Do I need to have my fridge on a level surface for it to operate?
Okay, again, most refrigeration units want to be on a level surface. Your compressor fridges will tolerate a little bit more uneven surface than will a three-way. Most of the three-way fridges really require to be within 2 degrees of level to operate at their most efficient, and certainly once you start getting to 5 or 8, 10 degrees out of level, you'll find the fridge may not operate at all when you're looking at a three-way fridge.
Okay, we've actually just had a question come in from Steve Jones. He says, what size solar panels and batteries do I need to run a large caravan fridge, say a 210 litre Evercool?
Okay, for your 210 litre Evercools, particularly if it's one of the latest generations, they're incredibly efficient on their power. So they rate those fridges at around about 30 degrees ambient temperature at about 2.5 amps. So you don't need a particularly large system with those. Generally, most 200 litre compressor fridges, you'll be looking for two 150 to 160 watt panels and two large batteries of the, say, 120 amp hour, which will give you about 240 amps of stored power. That way you're not able to only run during sunny conditions, but if you do happen to get a couple of days of inclement weather where your solar panels aren't producing, you know, their full potential, you'll still be able to keep your fridge running.
Yeah, we've actually had a question here from Sukolis. It's not in relation to the fridges, but she wants to know why her toilet is having a bad odour.
Okay, there can be a couple of reasons why. Generally, for the toilets to be producing an odour, again, particularly in the hot weather, the breakdown of the byproduct, obviously, of human waste is methane gas. It's not particularly nice smelling. There are a couple of things you can do. You can fit some of the odour fragrance tablets to the toilet canister itself. You can empty the canister more regularly, or you can fit what's known as a SOG unit, and that unit actually exhausts those methane gases outside of the caravan and hopefully relieve you of the smell. As I said, it was always reminiscent of old chemical toilets, the bad odour, particularly in summer. So, but if you try a few of those different methods, hopefully that'll have your caravan smelling sweet again.
We've also just got a question from Herbert. I have recently purchased one of your fridges from you guys. I was just double checking on how many amps does the three-way fridge fan usually draw?
It depends on the unit itself. So if it's a three-way fridge, the only draw will be from the fan unit itself. Usually they're less than an amp. They're generally a computer style power unit, so much like your laptop computer. So most modern computer fans are around about 0.2 to 0.5 of an amp, so very little current draw on those units. And again, you only need to run those fans in the very hot weather.
Okay. I've just got another question here. Is a three-way or a compressor fridge better for off-road use?
Again, it depends on how you're using your van. As I said, if you want to spend long periods of time off-grid, a lot of people opt for a three-way fridge because you can run them on gas. So your gas supplies generally last a long time. They're very efficient on gas. It really depends on the type of van. As I said, if you've got a good quality solar system and batteries, you will be able to spend just as long off-road with a compressor fridge. As I said, compressor fridges are a little bit more efficient in the extremes of weather we find in Australia.
Awesome. We've got another question in here from David Brown. Is there an aftermarket fridge that replaces the old three-way?
Generally there are. We mentioned Evercool. There are a couple of different brands on the market. We particularly like the new Evercool fridges. Their new generation computer controlled compressor is very efficient on its power. As I said, about half of that of most of the other competitors on the market. But there are Waco fridges out there. Vitrifrigo make a good compressor fridge as well. So there are a few units. Now they may not be an exact match to the size of your current fridge, but they're generally fairly close, so there's generally minimal alterations required.
Alright. We've got another question here. Again, it's not on fridges, but guys, if you do have any other questions on the fridges, just send them through. But Sharon is asking, is there an easier way to put a cover on a van?
That's a very good question, and a lot of people do struggle with the covers. Look, the best way to put the covers on is in a two-man operation. Generally, and hopefully not on a windy day, a couple of broomsticks or extendable pole sticks. So you assemble the cover at the rear of the van laid out in a concertina style pattern, and then if you can get yourself and a friend with a couple of large broomsticks or adjustable pole sticks, put them into the leading edge, lift the cover, and then slowly walk the cover via each side of the van down to the front. It's the most efficient. It's probably one of the easiest ways to put on a general caravan cover.
Awesome. I've also got, does the Anderson plug on the car only trickle charge the caravan fridge from Kim?
Okay, your Anderson plug on the car will generally power that fridge to its full potential. So whether it be a three-way or a compressor fridge, if it's wired that way, your car alternator will provide the full current draw that the fridge will be using. So you don't have to worry about it sort of trickle charging. As far as three-way fridges go, it's generally an industry no-no to wire them to house batteries, as they do use a lot of power, around 15 amps an hour, and that would flatten a house battery, standard house battery, probably in around about an hour. So your car battery, if it was running from your car battery with the car not running, would have that car battery flat within about half an hour, so you won't actually start the vehicle. So again, it's very good to find out from your auto electrician how they've wired that Anderson plug, and make sure it does have an isolator, so that when you turn the ignition off to the car, that power is cut, so it's not flattening the start battery on your vehicle.
Alright, I hope that answers your question, Kim. We have another question here from Frank. Is there a three-way or a compressor fridge that is more quiet? So what's your opinion on that one?
Okay, so the quietest of the fridges are definitely your three-way fridges, as there's virtually no noise at all from that style of fridge. Your compressor fridge obviously is running a compressor, and so you do have a small amount of noise from the compressor unit itself. During the day, I'd say you would never hear the compressor running. Sometimes at night, if it's very quiet, you may actually hear the compressor cycle. So out of the two, certainly your three-way fridges is the most quiet.
Alright, I have another question here from Kane, so bear with me, it's a little bit of a long one. He says, hi, I have a three-way Waco fridge in a 2013 model van. It's plugged into a 240 volt while at home, but when they went and checked on it for a trip, it was hot. He checked that the van had power. Is there anything that you would suggest would be the reason for it being hot?
Okay, if you've been running a three-way fridge from 240 volts and the fridge is no longer cooling, it would generally suggest that the 240 volt element has ceased operating. So you would need to take that into a fridge technician, someone such as ourselves, and have that element replaced. They do burn out from time to time. They're very much like an old style jug element. So they sit down the side of your burner can and they boil the ammonia instead of the flame that you would normally use if you're running on gas. So as I said, they will stop from time to time in their operation and would need to be replaced.
We actually have Herbert back on the line. He's asking whether or not we think that it's a good idea to turn the fridge off every now and then to give it a bit of a break.
Okay, you don't need to give the fridge a break per se. Like all equipment, the more you run it, the shorter the lifespan of that piece of equipment. You generally turn the fridge off if you're building up ice. So just like your domestic fridge at home, if you find a lot of ice building up, it's certainly a good idea to turn it off for a small period of time, let it defrost. Some of the more modern fridges, some of the Domestics and the Wacos actually have a defrost cycle on them these days. Again, you know, stopping that build up, and particularly it builds up in the freezer units. So certainly it doesn't need it from the point of view of resting the motor, but for just a defrost, if you're running it long term, is a great idea.
Okay, just another one for you, Greg. If a fridge has a freezer in it, does it require more power?
Again, great question. Certainly. Running a freezer unit absorbs a lot more power than the fridge unit does. I run a 85 litre chest cool fridge from Evercool in the back of my four-wheel drive, and I find when I run that unit as a fridge, I get about 3 to 4 days out of my auxiliary battery. If I use that as a freezer, I get a day out of it. So it'll give you an idea of the power consumption that the freezer uses. It certainly uses a lot more power with your compressor fridges running a freezer than just a fridge alone.
Okay. I think, is there any more questions at all? We have actually one here from Suze asking about, oh, it's just disappeared. She has a Thetford three-way fridge, and on the very hot days, and it's on the awning side, she's asking that is there a reason why it's not keeping up with the recommended temperature? Is it literally just because of the hot days, or is there something wrong with her fridge?
It could be a combination. Generally, certainly if it's the sort of weather we've been having, they will struggle. Obviously, you're boiling ammonia via a flame or a heated element to produce a cooling effect. So when it gets very, very hot, they will struggle to perform with that. Anything you can do to assist it, ventilate the back of the fridge more with some fans, or shade the back of the fridge will help it perform a little bit better. But you may well find that it is too hot for the fridge itself. Because they're a differential unit, it's a little bit difficult for them to keep up when it's 47 degrees. Most fridges are rated at an ambient temperature of 30 degrees. So every degree above that, the fridge loses efficiency, and compressor fridges are the same. Even a compressor fridge in 50 degrees will struggle to operate as efficiently as it did at 30 degrees. So I hope that gives you some insight. We're sort of out of time this week. I hope that answered a few of your questions. Next week we're going to be looking at weight distributing hitches. So again, I hope you all are able to tune in. Any questions you might have that we're able to help answer, I hope you bring them along. We look forward to seeing Renee back on deck, and look forward to seeing you back here live. See you then, guys.